A young guy was tricked into working on an alien planet in order to escape his debts, but he was stuffed into a human body printer by his boss. Since then, he has started a cycle of repeatedly dying and being reborn, and an endless cosmic drudge working story. He has to work 14 hours a day, and work a full 7 days a week. If he is worked to death, the next body will be printed. The young guy not only has to help humans test vaccines and check radiation, he also has to negotiate with huge alien crawlers, who on Earth said that technology changes lives. Joon-ho Bong, the director of Parasite, joins hands with Robert Pattinson to enter Hollywood, bringing you a hilarious science fiction adventure black comedy. The story is set in the distant future. Human technology has developed at a high speed. The Earth has become barren due to endless consumption. Therefore, Counselor Marshall decided to launch the colonization plan of the planet Nibelheim, and our protagonist, Mickey, is just an extremely unlucky guy. He listened to the bad advice of his friend Timo, and borrowed money at usurious interest rates to open a macaron store. Unexpectedly, he lost all his business and even owed debts to the mafia. The two of them could hardly survive on the Earth. In desperation, they joined the interstellar colonization plan. His good brother Timo obtained the pilot qualification because of his excellent driving skills. But Mickey didn't have any skills. He could only choose the consumable body position that no one else had filled in the application form. A consumable body is a kind of extremely durable consumable material. The staff repeatedly confirmed that Mickey hadn't filled it in wrongly. Before sending him for a full body scan, the machine would store all of Mickey's memories, and even his personality in a brick-shaped hard drive, and it needs to be updated once a week. Then Mickey would be sent to carry out various dangerous tasks, for example, being exposed to the toxic atmosphere of a planet, letting him deliberately inhale the virus, to test the adverse reactions and help scientists study vaccines, or sending Mickey into the radiation area, to detect under such conditions how long it would take for the human skin to get burned, and how long it would take for the eyes to go blind. Mickey looked at his wrist that was broken due to radiation. He couldn't help thinking of the time in the 4th grade science class, when he dissected the frogs in the laboratory wantonly. Perhaps there really is karma in the world, so now he has also become the frog in the laboratory. Every time Mickey died due to omission, the relevant department would print out another body, then the previously stored memories and personality traits would be reimplanted into Mickey's brain. This technology has triggered a great deal of ethical debates and religious opposition thoughts, so currently, it is only allowed to be used on consumable bodies. All in all, ever since Mickey signed this contract of indenture, he has started a cycle of repeatedly dying and being reborn, and having a working life with countless high-risk jobs. In such a harsh environment, he found a relatively sweet thing for himself, that is, falling in love with his female colleague, Nasha. Thanks to this happy relationship, Mickey has persevered for 4 years. Over the years, he and Nasha have relied on each other. They can be regarded as soulmates. Mickey has died and come back to life 16 times like this, and he has officially been updated to the 17th generation of his body. On this day, Mickey the 17th was sent to a planet covered in ice and snow to carry out a mission. He followed several teammates and got into the dark stone cave to investigate, and accidentally discovered an alien creature. They were shaped like worms and crawling all over the ground. Everyone prepared to evacuate the cave quickly, but a worm suddenly appeared on the ice layer above their heads. Jenny, who wasn't a consumable body, panicked and picked up a machine gun and fired upwards. Unexpectedly, the ice layer collapsed and killed Jenny. After Marshall learned about this, he flew into a rage and took all his anger out on Mickey, because Marshall thought that an employee like Jenny was very precious. Once she died, she couldn't be reborn. A consumable body like Mickey should be the one to rush ahead and take risks for everyone. The unlucky Mickey was not only fined half of his rations, his working hours were also increased to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. He caught worms in the snow day after day. Timo even gloated when delivering supplies. However, what was even worse was that, on this day, he opened the supply bag in a hurry. Before he could put the food in his mouth, he fell into a snow pit. Timo quickly came down to check the situation. When he was surprised that Mickey was actually still alive, a huge alien worm pounced over and opened its big mouth towards Mickey. Perhaps everyone thinks that death isn't scary for Mickey, but in fact, it is completely the opposite. Every time he dies, Mickey is afraid. So when he opened his eyes and found that the worm hadn't swallowed him, he felt lucky for the first time. However, the next second, the big worm dragged Mickey back to its lair. Countless larvae jumped onto him. Mickey thought desperately, could it be that it's going to feed me to its offspring? But the worms didn't eat Mickey. They even worked together to send him out of the cave. Mickey soon found a sampling vehicle. He hurriedly chased after it and climbed onto the frame of the vehicle. After going through many hardships, he returned to the base and dragged his tired body back to the dormitory to sleep. But there was actually another person in his bed. It turned out that the headquarters thought Mickey the 17th was dead. They had just printed out Mickey the 18th. According to the regulations for replicants, when there are duplicate individuals and the situation can't be reconciled, both individuals must be destroyed. In order to save his life, Mickey the 18th quickly grabbed the dumbbell beside him, and prepared to kill Mickey the 17th to silence him. At this point in the story, it's also necessary for us to improve the legal regulations regarding replicants. Behind the human printing technology, there is an indispensable key figure named Manikova. He was originally a psychiatric patient with a criminal record. He used the human body printing technology to create a replicant that was identical to himself. Then, by using this, he forged an alibi and committed a series of cruel murders. Fortunately, the police quickly obtained information about him and arrested both Manikovas at the same time. But there are still a series of issues to be discussed. Next, are these two people accomplices, or is one person obeying the other? Are these separate and independent crimes, or were they all committed by the same person from the beginning? Do they only eat half a portion of food in prison, or does each person have a full meal? The police, legal experts, philosophers, and everyone was stumped, just when Manikova the First and Manikova the Second were both locked in the interrogation room. Another homeless person was brutally killed, and the murderer was Manikova the Third replicant. This incident immediately caused panic. The human body printing technology was also widely criticized. The senior management held countless meetings on this issue. Finally, Marshall announced that artificial printing is sinful, replication is the work of Satan. We must think about how to use this technology reasonably to benefit humanity. Marshall suggested conducting a trial run of human body printing, away from the Earth, under the strictest supervision. Only one replicant is allowed for each planet in each expedition, that is, the consumable body mentioned before. If multiple replicants appear during the process, Marshall promised to execute and permanently delete all the individuals. Back to the present, Mickey the 18th has already knocked Mickey the 17th unconscious, and is preparing to stuff him into the recycler for destruction. In a critical moment, Mickey the 17th proposed, "How about we share the work and take turns resting? This way, both of us can be more relaxed." Mickey the 18th didn't quite understand upon hearing this. "You've died so many times. Why are you still afraid of death?" In fact, it was the experience of escaping death on the glacier that gave Mickey the 17th a different understanding of death. Even though his body was created from the waste absorption pool, and his memory was also transferred into his brain through the brick-shaped hard drive, but each Mickey is irreplaceable. Why should he live just to die? Unfortunately, Mickey the 18th wasn't convinced by this argument. He forcefully pressed Mickey the 17th into the recycler. Just at this critical moment, Timo suddenly pushed a cart and came in. The two of them panicked and hid in the dark, but they accidentally found that Timo was actually selling undiluted ozone secretly. Mickey the 18th was indignant when he saw this scene. He asked Mickey the 17th, "Why didn't you kill this guy?" When Timo tricked Mickey into partnering to open a store before, he put most of the loans under Mickey's name. Mickey the 17th was startled when he heard this. "How could you have such a terrible idea? Timo is our only friend." Mickey the 18th turned a deaf ear, and directly ran out and pushed Timo into the recycler. In fact, from this, we can see that the two Mickeys have very different personalities, because when Mickey the 18th was being printed, the employees accidentally knocked off a few tubes, which caused an error in his personality. At this time, Timo braced his body and asked Mickey for help, but Mickey the 18th wasn't the weak one as he used to be. He picked up a stick and prepared to stab Timo down. Unexpectedly, several employees suddenly appeared. Mickey the 17th hurriedly looked for a place to hide. Mickey the 18th lied, and said that Timo had accidentally fallen in just now. "I'm trying to find a way to save him." Then he looked down and warned Timo, "Keep your mouth shut. Don't say what you shouldn't say." Then he pulled Timo up. Timo was probably also scared. He actually didn't expose the fact that he had been pushed down just now. After that, Mickey the 18th put his arm around Nesha and left. Mickey the 17th was very angry when he saw this. He followed them all the way back to the dormitory, but he was stopped by the administrator halfway. It seemed that Marshall had organized a promotional activity. They were going to draw a lucky employee to have dinner with their family. Mickey became this lucky one, and was taken to a private restaurant by the administrator. You know, ordinary employees can only eat compressed food every day, and the grams of food are also strictly supplied. Mickey the 17th finally had a chance to have a big meal. He kept eating crazily. Soon, Jenny's friend Kelly was also invited to the dining table. The Marshalls took a fancy to her flawless jeans. They thought that Kelly was the perfect sample for the new inhabitants of the colony. She was definitely the perfect candidate for Nibelheim's natural reproduction plan. Kelly was unhappy when she heard this. In your eyes, am I just a womb? Ilfa quickly explained. We won't objectify women. It's just that Marshall's only dream is to have a planet that belongs only to pure-blooded humans, a planet where people can eat real crops and meat. Everyone can enjoy a dinner with delicate and delicious sauce together. The sauce is a symbol of civilization. Those who eat raw meat are barbarians. Upon hearing this, Mickey the 17th looked at the piece of raw meat on his plate. It was completely different from the delicate dishes on Kelly's plate. The Marshalls simply regarded Mickey the 17th as an inferior person. They hypocritically prayed for Jenny in order to make Kelly happy. At this moment, Mickey the 17th suddenly fell to the ground and started twitching. It turned out that what Marshall fed him was artificial meat. Since the technology wasn't mature enough, the growth hormone in it made Mickey the 17th break out in red rashes all over his body. It turned out that this meal was just using Mickey the 17th to test the artificial meat. Seeing that the other party was in extreme pain, he quickly called the researchers. They took out the special effective painkiller that they had been developing. Anyway, Mickey has been shouting in pain. Why don't we take this opportunity to test the effectiveness of the medicine? But Mickey the 17th, after being injected with the medicine, not only didn't stop the pain, he was also writhing in pain like a live fish. At this time, Marshall took out a pistol and prepared to relieve Mickey the 17th of his pain. He also emphasized that this was humanitarianism. Unexpectedly, Ilfa suddenly screamed to stop him. She shouted, "You can't make a hole in my carpet," and quickly pulled away the precious carpet. Kelly beside them really couldn't stand it anymore. You can't treat Mickey like this. But Marshall didn't feel any guilt at all. He also said that Mickey was just a printed product and signed the consumable body contract voluntarily. After Marshall said that he was about to shoot, unexpectedly, Mickey the 17th desperately grabbed the barrel of the gun. He didn't want to give up his life just because of this pain. Kelly quickly helped Mickey the 17th back to the dormitory, and also helped him dry his clothes. She prepared scented tea to relieve his stomachache. You know, in the current situation where resources are extremely scarce, tea can be regarded as a luxury. The reason why Kelly was so considerate to Mickey the 17th is that she wanted to know what death really felt like, what it was like when her friend Jenny was crushed under the ice. Mickey frankly said, "No matter how many times I experience death, I will feel scared and painful every time." It was the first time that Kelly realized that Mickey the 17th wasn't just a printed product, he was also a real human being with flesh and blood. Seeing that the atmosphere between them was getting more and more ambiguous, Mickey the 17th quickly pushed Kelly away and left. Because he loved Nasha, he couldn't betray his soulmate. Mickey the 17th ran back to the dormitory and found Nasha with Mickey the 18th. After the other party saw the two Mickeys, she wasn't scared but was very excited. She thought it was very cool to have two identical people in the world. Mickey the 17th keenly noticed that Nasha wasn't in the right state. He looked back and indeed found undiluted ozone on the table. The excited Nasha pushed the two Mickeys down, but before she could take further action, Kelly chased after them with the tea, and happened to see this scene. She turned around and was about to leave. Nasha immediately chased after her and stopped Kelly. She explained that Mickey didn't violate the rules on purpose. This was a mistake made by the headquarters. She hoped that Kelly wouldn't expose this matter. Unexpectedly, the other party put forward an astonishing request. Kelly asked Nasha to give up Mickey the 17th, saying, "Anyway, you have two Mickeys. Why don't you share?" Nasha was also angry when she heard this. Both Mickey the 17th and Mickey the 18th were her boyfriend Mickey. This couldn't be shared casually. On the other side, Mickey the 18th heard about what happened in the restaurant. He was furious and questioned Mickey the 17th. "Didn't you take revenge on Marshall?" Mickey the 18th was extremely angry and could no longer tolerate this unfair treatment. He picked up a weapon and was about to kill Marshall. Mickey the 17th hurriedly chased after him to stop him. At this time, Marshall was giving a speech. He transported back a black ore from the glacier planet, and was going to carve his name on it. This rock would become the symbolic monument of Nibelheim. Just then, Mickey the 18th squeezed into the crowd, and slowly took out the pistol hidden in his sleeve. Unexpectedly, a terrifying worm suddenly emerged from the ore. The whole scene immediately became chaotic. Mickey the 18th, who was holding a weapon, was also subdued by the security guards. The staff in protective suits chased after that little worm, jumping up and down. Finally, Mickey the 17th rushed in and helped them catch the terrifying worm, and Mickey the 18th took the opportunity to break free. He picked up the weapon again and aimed at Marshall. Just at this critical moment, Nasha jumped over and knocked Mickey the 18th away. The bullet missed and hit the rock, Marshall was shocked when he saw the two Mickeys. However, his first reaction was to hold the microphone and continue speaking. Unexpectedly, another terrifying worm emerged from the rock cave. Kelly immediately fired a shot and led the security team to eliminate it. Marshall also quickly disinfected his whole body, for fear of getting infected with some terrible virus. After he came to his senses, he ordered the arrest of the two Mickeys. Nasha, who knew the situation but didn't report it, was also locked up in the detention center. During the time when the three of them were imprisoned, Mickey the 17th mentioned that the terrifying worms were actually not terrifying. He had been saved by these little crawlers before, otherwise he wouldn't have escaped from the ice and snow. Nasha was very surprised when she heard this. "We should report this to the scientific community," saying that the terrifying worms have saved humans. Just as she finished speaking, Timo suddenly crawled in. He was accompanied by a small lackey. It turned out that he had received a threatening letter from the mafia not long ago. The other party asked Timo to cut Mickey into pieces, and then record the whole process and send it back to the earth. If Timo didn't do this, the mafia would send someone to kill him. So Timo hoped that Mickey the 17th could understand him. "If I die, everything will be over, but you can be reprinted at any time." After Timo said this hypocritically, he ordered his subordinates to stun Mickey the 17th with an electric shock. Mickey the 18th immediately stopped Timo. "I almost pushed you into the recycler before. Why don't you spare Mickey the 17th and kill me instead? This way, you can not only complete the task but also vent your anger." However, Mickey the 18th had a request. He wanted an undiluted ozone, just like the last cigarette before the death penalty. Timo asked his subordinates to hand Mickey the 18th an ozone. Unexpectedly, Mickey the 18th suddenly grabbed the lackey's arm. Nasha took the opportunity to take the stun gun from him and knock Timo down. Then she searched for the key and opened the prison door. She gave Timo a knee strike and picked up a chainsaw, preparing to avenge Mickey. Mickey the 17th quickly spoke out to stop her, but Mickey the 18th was beside her, encouraging Nasha to do it. Fortunately, some employees appeared at the critical moment. Nasha put down the chainsaw and told the other party about the terrifying worms saving people. Mickey the 17th looked at her back and was very touched in his heart, because Nasha was the only one who would lose her composure like this for Mickey. In these 4 years, she had never looked down on any printed body. On the contrary, every time Mickey died, Nasha felt it deeply and was very painful. Just then, Mickey the 17th noticed that a large number of terrifying worms had gathered outside the base. It was estimated that it was because the larvae, captured by the headquarters, had been crying for help all the time, that led to the large-scale appearance of the terrifying worms. The administrator said worriedly that these worms could break through the ice and stones. If they attacked the outer wall together, the consequences would be unimaginable. The staff had to record the sound of the larva to see if they could analyze any patterns. Unexpectedly, Ilfa suddenly asked to deal with the larva personally. She pulled out the tail of the terrifying worm and then cut it off with a scalpel. Ilfa wanted to use the terrifying worm to develop a new sauce. This character was so crazy about making sauce. In fact, it was director Junho Bong paying tribute to Lucy's love for food in Okja, reflecting the emptiness of the upper class. Ilfa needed to find an outrageous target that was seriously inconsistent with her position. To feel the value of her own existence, Marshall saw that the two Mickeys were still alive. He ordered to throw them into the recycler for scrapping, and completely delete the memories in the storage brick, then launch a war against the terrifying worms. Nasha hurriedly stopped him. Going to war requires a large amount of energy and calories. For humans who have just arrived at a colonial planet, it's very difficult to maintain survival and development with the supplies, not to mention launching a war. Moreover, the terrifying worms have been hovering for several hours. They haven't done anything except waiting. It seems that they don't want to go to war with humans. In addition, the terrifying worm saved Mickey before. Nasha thought that there must be another solution. Marshall burst into laughter after hearing this. He said that Mickey was just recyclable garbage, scrapped and reprinted over and over again. It is estimated that the terrifying worms also have cognitive ability, and know that garbage cannot be eaten. A little girl wearing glasses told Marshall that the terrifying worms did have cognitive ability, and they also showed signs of high intelligence. As long as we analyze their language patterns, we can communicate with the terrifying worms. To avoid the occurrence of war, Marshall said contemptuously, "I won't negotiate with worms." The larva seemed to understand this sentence and spat at him. Marshall suddenly became furious and cursed these alien worms. But for the terrifying worms, humans are the aliens who somehow broke into their homes. Before Marshall's nonsense about alien immigration appeared, the terrifying worms or Mickey were just living their own lives. Marshall has no right to decide anyone's life or death. and he can't casually erase Mickey's existence. Nasha's words made Marshall furious. He decided to launch a full-scale annihilation operation. Ilfa also gave him a bad idea. The couple decided to make the two Mickeys carry antimatter bombs on their backs and perish together with the terrifying worms on the glacier, and all the buttons to control the two bombs would be in Marshall's hands. If Mickey tried to leave the remote control range, the bombs would also explode automatically. In short, they couldn't think of disobeying the order. Ilfa also added, when you set out, you two will get a simple weapon. You must cut off as many tails of the terrifying worms as possible to help me collect the raw materials for the sauce. The person who cuts off 100 tails first, we might bring you back to life. The girl wearing glasses chased to the gate of the base and handed Mickey a translator. Although it hasn't been tested yet, it might work. Mickey the 17th took the translator and went to talk to the mother worm. Unexpectedly, this method actually worked. Mickey the 17th asked the mother worm to take the worms away quickly, otherwise, the poison gas bomb tied behind him would kill everyone.
Why kill Luca? Baby Luca.
Luca was the larva that was shot dead. The mother worm didn't understand why, although it had saved humans, its own people were still going to be killed. Mickey the 18th suddenly interrupted and asked what the name of the other captured larva was. The mother worm thought that the baby named Zoko was also dead. It immediately straightened up, leading all the terrifying worms to open their mouthparts towards the sky. A strange sound wave sounded accordingly. The two Mickeys covered their ears in pain, but the sound of the mother worm still didn't stop. Mickey the 17th ran to the base monitor and made a motion of holding a baby, signaling them to return the larva to its owner. But Marshall turned a deaf ear. He also mocked Mickey. Such a failure. Why should he represent humans to talk to an alien race? He ordered his subordinates to prepare the camera, planned to go out and talk to the mother worm himself, and then record this great moment. Mickey the 17th had to tell the mother worm that the larva Zoko wasn't dead yet. Please stop immediately. The mother worm said that humans must pay the price. We lost a child, and one of you must also die. Before Mickey could respond, Marshall and the camera crew ran out. At the same time, Nasha took the opportunity to sneak attack Ilfa. She choked the other person's neck and threatened the person in charge to release the larva. Ilfa quickly agreed in order to save her life, but she suddenly picked up a scalpel and slashed at the person in charge. The latter released the rope in pain. The larva almost fell into the recycler. Fortunately, Nasha reacted quickly enough to prevent a major disaster. The person in charge covered his injured arm. He pointed out that what the marshals had done as commanders had far exceeded the scope of their authorization. All the video evidence would be submitted to the committee for review. You two just wait for the lawsuit. Nasha ran to find Mickey while holding the larva. At this moment, the swarm of terrifying worms felt the threat from Marshall. They all climbed onto the mother worm. Mickey the 18th mixed in the swarm of worms and bid farewell to Mickey the 17th. It seemed that he was already prepared to sacrifice himself. As soon as he finished speaking, the two were surrounded by the swarm of worms. Seeing that the negotiation failed, Marshall ordered his subordinates to fire at the mother worm. Unexpectedly, Mickey the 18th suddenly rushed over with a machete in his hand. While Mickey the 18th was fighting with Marshall, Mickey the 17th joined Nasha, and they quickly handed the larva to the mother worm. At the same time, Mickey the 18th pinned Marshall down and grabbed the button on his arm. Mickey the 18th looked up and took one last look at Mickey the 17th. Then he detonated the bomb on his body. This farce finally came to an end. 6 months later, spring came to the base. Nasha had participated in the election and joined the parliament, and she took the lead in protesting, forcing the government to abolish the consumable plan. What's more, Mickey personally blew up the artificial printer. Soon after, the girl wearing glasses developed a more accurate translator. It helped humans in terrifying worms reach a cooperation agreement, and they tried to plant crops on this land. The story ends here. The film is adapted from the science fiction novel, Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. The production cost is as high as $118 million US. It is the movie with the highest investment in Bong Joon-ho's career. The main theme of the original work is to highlight Mickey's thinking about death and life. It has mentioned the philosophical speculation, the ship of Theseus, many times. Simply put, if a ship is continuously renovated until every part of it is replaced, is it still the original ship? In the film, Mickey gradually realized in the cycle of death that each of himself was irreplaceable, and that consumable body and human body printing technology shouldn't exist from an ethical perspective. It is worth mentioning that the Commander Marshall, played by the Hulk, From his action habits to his way of speaking, he is deliberately imitating a certain person named Pooh. The director made Marshall a typical symbolic existence. It's to satirize those seemingly unattainable management organizations in real life. They are very likely to be some people who took office temporarily and are completely unprofessional. This film continues Joon-ho Bong's consistent style. Although it is far from being as good as Parasite, it can still be regarded as a passable commercial film.